Chapter 1, Human Resources. So, learning objectives. Define human resource management and explain how HRM contributes to organization's performance. Identify the responsibilities of human resource departments. Summarize the types of competencies needed for human resource management. Explain the role of supervisors in human resource management. Discuss ethical issues in human resource management. Describe typical careers in human resource management. Polling question. In an organization, who should be concerned with HRM? Only the HR department, only the managers, only top level managers, all of these. And the answer is D, all of these. Human resource management. So we got the policies, practices, and systems that influence employees' behavior, attitudes, and performance. So when you look at behaviors, attitudes, and performance, many companies refer to HRM as involving people practices. Companies with HRM employees and customers tend to be more satisfied. Companies tend to be more innovative and have greater productivity and develop more favorable reputations in the community. And these are the things that, you look at this right here, behavior, attitudes, and performance. This is all people-based. So when we look at this right here, we look at strategic human resource management. So we look at analysis and design of work. So in every situation, you're going to have analysis and design and work to determine what type of work people should be doing. And is it meaningful, and how do you get the biggest impact for it? You have HR planning. Which is the department where you look at when they start looking at HR policies and things along those lines and how they factor into what people actually do. Recruiting is getting people. What type of people are you attracting? Are you recruiting the right type of people? Selection. So you take about after you recruit these people, and you have selection is who do you actually hire from the people that you're recruiting, and you get the candidates who are the best fit for your organization. Training and development. Now you want to train these people to be able to go and do their jobs at a high level and perform at a high level. Performance management is managing the people who are doing the work. Ultimately, a manager has to be held accountable for people who are doing the work, particularly if they're not doing it. Compensation. How are you paying these people? What's a fair compensation wage for what they do? And are you competitive with the market? And employee relations. This is not a perfect world, this is not a utopian society, and your place of business will not be a place where everything's perfect. So you're going to have issues and stuff. And having employee relations where places where people can go and can get involved, sometimes it can keep a molehill from turning into a mountain of problems. So, human resource and company performance. Human capital in organizations, employees describe in terms of their multiple things here. So you see you have training. When you describe the training, the type of training that people do. Experience, what type of experience is being brought to the table? When these people are doing these jobs, what type of judgment is needed, to be able to do a job? And give you an example, if you have an organization where you have a job where it requires you to have a lot of interaction with different types of people, you definitely want somebody who's going to be people oriented in that position, and they can make the right type of decisions. Intelligence. Intelligence is the things that people gather, the information and stuff that you need to be able to do the job. A lot of times you hear the term words intelligence is referred to, particularly in the government and law enforcement and the military, but it's also in corporate America as well. Relationships. Relationships mean a lot. Having these relationships to be able to get things done. I often look at relationships as being a resource. The relationships that someone has can determine the things that they can get done. Maybe not necessarily what you do and know, but somebody else may know. And because you have the relationship, it'll help you. Insight. What type of insight does someone have into what they're doing? Having insight is invaluable, to understand what it is you're doing, where you're trying to go, and what results are you thinking about. And insight's going to be crucial in helping you and understand that. So the impact of human resource management. So we look at the type of human resource capital. So we talked about the training, experience, judgment, intelligence, relationships, insight. So now let's look at organizational performance, quality, profitability, and customer satisfaction. When you look at the organizational performance, how well are these people performing within the organization? How well is that organization performing? And when you look at it, you break it down. How's the organization performing? When it's not performing, then you need to break it down and go below and figure out which departments and which people are involved. But ultimately, you look at your organizational performance. The quality of things getting done, the services or the products that you provide, are they quality? Or is there an issue there with quality? Ways of service or what you provide or what you sell. Profitability, are you making money? You can every business that starts up eventually is losing money initially because you have expenses, but you have very little revenue or sales to show for it. But ultimately, you got to get to the point where what you're doing is profitable. Customer satisfaction. If you're providing stuff that deals where you're providing services or products to customers, the customer is king. And if they're not satisfied, guess what they stop doing? Buying your service or your products. Behavior, human capital, motivation, and effort. So when you look at human capital and motivation, one of the things is you can't put a dollar amount on this, the motivation of someone. People who are properly motivated to do the right thing in the right situation at the right time. You can have plenty of people who are experienced and educated, but it doesn't mean they have the right motivation. Particularly if you have somebody who's working in a high-paced capacity, a high producing or high capacity type situation, and they're not that type of person. And the motivation might be the issue. Effort. Effort is something that is an intangible as well. And it's hard to measure that, but you see it. It was like, okay, why is it that one person attempted something 2 times and it didn't work and they said, oh, this won't work. But another person would attempt the same thing, they do it 6 times and figured out a way to do it. That's effort. Human resource management, is all of these things when you put them together. So this is why this is a very broad umbrella. So human resources and company performance, sustainable competitive advantage. An organization is better than competitors at something and can hold the advantage over a sustained period of time. Human resources can give organizations advantages because of human resources. And here's why: because they are valuable. The things that they bring into the table, all these things that we talked about before, are rare. And when you see this, and you have some situations where you have people who are human resources are rare in the sense that the person with high levels of the needed skills and knowledge is not common. An organization may spend months looking for a talented or experienced manager or technician. So just because you have a need, don't mean there's a lot of people out there to fill it. Cannot be imitated. So when you do something, this is what makes you superior at it, is when you're doing something that others, there's an old expression, often duplicated but never imitated. People can't imitate it because you have something that they don't. And that's usually intangible in way of the right type of people doing it and the subject matter experts involved. Have no good substitutes. Again, there are no good substitutes. Often imitated, never duplicated. So either you got the right people in place. Give you an example. How is it you can have one team that they're executing at a very high level and they're exceeding their goals and stuff, and it's 10 of them, then 3 people leave, and all of a sudden they're slacking off and it's not making it and not achieving like they used to. Why? Because now you don't have the right people in place. Those 3 people that left were crucial and they provided crucial roles, and you were not able to backfill. So Walmart recently raised the minimum wage for store employees in an effort to attract and train top workers. So I think this happened back in like 1923 when they announced it was raising the minimum wage and stuff, and they saw that wanted to attract and retain top workers. Because listen, Target's hiring too. Other places are hiring too. Sam's is also Walmart, but Costco. There's other places that people can go and work too. So in order to attract the right type of people, you gotta have a competitive wage. At the end of the day, what most people are going to work for is a wage that they feel is something that will help them feed their families. Human resources. So high performance work system. Technology, organizational structure, people, and the processes all work together to give an organization a competitive advantage. May include development of training programs. So when you have development training programs, it's okay, notice the word development. So a lot of times what you'll find is there may not be training programs in place. So you will have to have some people inside your organization. Usually people like instructional designers to work with management and leaders and the training and learning and training department to come up with programs that works. Recruitment of people with new skill sets. This is where diversity of skills can be very important. If you're hiring people for the future, then you can't keep hiring people who's got skill sets that are consistent with the past. You got to look at where you're trying to go, and you have to get the right people in place. And what you find sometimes is that don't always mean younger either. Sometimes that means people who have been working for a while, but they go and get retrained or get a degree of certification in something else that makes them more marketable and more usable to an organization. Establishment of rewards for such behaviors as teamwork, flexibility, and learning. Look, reward people who do good. I call this positive reinforcement. Reward people who are doing good things. And if you do that, people will view that positively, and it's something that can help you retain, and it even helps you recruitment also, because they'll tell other people. Responsibilities of human resource departments, HR product lines. So you have administrative services and transactions. So when you have administrative service transactions, handle administrative tasks. For example, like hiring employees, answering questions about benefits, efficiency, and the commitment to quality. Business partner, this is in terms of like a developing effective HR system that helps the organization meet their goals for attracting and keeping and developing these people with the skills that you need. Strategic partner. A strategic partner, and this is contributing to the company's strategy through an understanding of its existing and needed human resources and ways HR practices can give the company competitive advantage. For strategic ideas to be effective, HR must understand the business and its industry and its competitors. Responsibilities. So as you establishing and administering personnel responsibilities, you have to establish and administer personnel policies. You got to come up with policies. Sometimes you have to tweak policies, or you have to add some new ones based upon who you are, what you're doing, and how you're growing. Ensure compliance with labor laws. This is our whole department within HR to ensure that people are complying with labor laws. These things come with penalties from the federal government if you do not, and they can be very costly. So abilities of HR department. So analysis and design of work. So you see work analysis, job design, and job descriptions. So that's where you have that come in to figure out exactly what is it we need, what type of worker do we need. Now you have the recruitment and selection. Now let's go and recruit the kind of people for these jobs and stuff that we design. Now the training. So it's going to consist of a couple of different things. You got the orientation, where you get people the initial training. You explain the who, what, when, where, and why, and what they're doing. Skills training, where you have people who are currently working for you acquire new skills. Career development programs. When you talk about career development programs, this is the help people advance their careers who are in a current capacity. A lot of times, to help them advance into management as well. Performance management, performance measures, preparation, administration of performance appraisals, and discipline. So performance management is very important, and you have this in all walks of life and all human endeavors where you have employees. And when this is done correct, this is something that is honest, it is fair, and it's fact-based. It's not biased, it's not preferential, and it's not neglected. And a lot of times in my careers, when I saw things that were not going the way that they should, and it went for long periods of time, one of the first things I would tell people is look at the performance management and look at the appraisals and things along those lines to find out, where the problem may be. Compensation and benefits, wage and salary administration, incentive to pay, insurance, vacations. So compensation and benefits is something that this is where you have to be right on this kind of stuff. Basically, what I'm saying is nobody's going to work for free. And when they are working, they want to know about the compensation and benefits, and HR's department is to make sure that they have access to this and keep them well informed. Employee relations. This is where you look at attitude surveys, employee relations, employee handbooks, company publications, labor compliance, relocation and outplacement service. So this is about think employee relations, think in terms of taking care of people. And one of the things you do is get surveys and stuff to figure out what it is people think or how they feel about stuff. Personnel policies, policy creation, policy communication. When you have these policies, one of the things you create policies based upon what you currently do and where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do in the future. And the policy communication. I don't care how many policies you put in place. If you don't communicate this to people, they don't know what it is. Employee data and information systems, record keeping, HR information systems, workforce and analytics. So this is where you get your information about your analytics about your people, who they are and what they do. When you want to find out, when you start looking for things that's working really well or things that's not working well at all, or you're looking for ways to improve, one of the things you want to do is check into the analytics of the employee data. Compliance with laws, policies to ensure lawful behavior, reporting, posting information, safety inspections, accessibility accommodations. So when you think of compliance with laws, this is thinking about in every aspect of the business to deal with handicap, safety. Are you posting things in a conspicuous area, signs that you're supposed to have out there? And are you abiding by all applicable laws, federal, state, and local? Support for strategy, human resource planning and forecasting, talent management, change management. So when you think of support for strategy, you think in terms of looking, what is it that we're going to need to lead us into the future? And you look at the planning, you look at forecasting, talent management, change management, all these things that come into play. How do we take what we have to work for the future, to sustain and do what we need to do, and what are the things that we will need in the future that we don't currently have? So responsibilities of human resource departments. So job analysis. So process of getting detailed information about jobs. So when you look at the job analysis, this is for instance, let's say that we're starting up a new job in this company. Well, let's do a job analysis from the industry and from other companies to see what is it that we need. Then you do what? You the job design process, defining the way work will be performed and the task that given the job requires. So do the analysis, then you design, and this way you're coming up with something that actually makes sense based on analytical data and not what someone's gut instinct or how someone thinks or feels. Boosting morale. So when you boost morale, so we see that here. The Wegmans Food Markets is one of only 4 companies to make Forbes 100 company list to work for, ranking each year since launched 25 years ago. The supermarket chain is known for exceptional training, flexible scheduling, in addition to a work scholarship program for high school students. So when you're boosting morale, look what the things that people do. This company is a prime example of, and I can tell you exactly what they think. They think their most valuable asset is their people, not what they sell. And by doing that, they seem to take care of the people. One of the things that when you do this and you develop this type of reputation, it attracts a lot of applicants. Now you get a chance to pick. The advantage of doing this, now you get a chance to pick and choose the type of applicants you would like, because you always have a talent-rich applicant pool because of your reputation and how you treat your employees. Responsibilities of human resource departments. Recruitment, process through which the organization seeks applicants for potential employment. This is very important. I give you an example. If you don't give their due diligence to recruitment, then that means you're possibly not maximizing your opportunities to bring in top-notch talent. Who wants to hire people who are mediocre or bad? I would think nobody. If you want to hire top-notch people, then you got to have top-notch recruitment, and it has to be a recruitment that's consistent. I'm going to use this word. I'm going to say aggressive about what they do, and proactive. And proactive is probably a better word, because you want to attract the right type of people. And when I say that, and I give you an example for someone who used to do recruitment for the federal government, for the U.S. military, the U.S. Army, the people you even send out there, first of all, do they reflect what you're trying to recruit? I'll give you an example. If you're trying to recruit and it's a particular group of people, let's say they're to age 25, let's say they're 23 to 35, and you sent 3 recruiters out there in their 60s. I'm not saying they can't do it, but do you see there's a disconnect there? And they may not be able to connect with the age group versus you sending somebody out there who is 60 years old who actually has a lot of experience, but he's also got a guy who's there who's 45 and another guy who recently graduated college there with him as well. So you can connect with people. Sometimes people are more apt to connect with folks in their age group. Selection. So now when you got recruited these top-notch people, then you got to go through your selection. And one of the things you got to look at, the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics, achieve your goals. And here's another word I'm going to throw out at you. Fit. Are you recruiting somebody who's a good fit for what it is, who you are and what you do and where you're trying to go? That's very important. Top qualities employers look for in employees: problem solving skills. So, problem solving skills. Can these people think on their feet? Can they solve problems, or do they need to constantly go to somebody else to help them with that? Teamwork skills. One of the things we promote a lot of stuff when it comes to, like, even in undergraduate, where we promote working in groups and stuff, because this is why. Just about in many endeavors that I hear, you will find yourself having to work in teams. Do you have team working skills? I've even heard of some high potential programs hiring kids, young men and women out of college, that they go through not only interviews, but they go through mock teamwork assignments where you have 2 or 3 applicants working together as a team to try to solve a problem, and they want to see how do they work as a team. Strong work ethic, or you somebody like I'll give you a great guy. Do you work to time or do you work to task? It's one of the things when you find out people have strong work ethic, they work to task. And here's what I mean. Someone says, well, I work from 8 to 5. At 5 p.m., they're done. Someone who works to task is like, you know what? I'm 8 to 5, but if I stay 20 more minutes, I can get this knocked out. And they'll do it. That's a lot of time. It's a work ethic that says, you know what? I don't like unfinished business. Analytical and quantitative skills. You have people who can look at stuff from an analytical and quantitative perspective, and this is, I tell people, you have to have people who have qualitative skills, but you have to have analytical skills too, because some things, it requires those skill sets. Written communication skills. This is something else that you see more employers looking for in people. When they're in the hiring process, a lot of times they'll ask folks to do a writing sample. And they want to see the writing sample because they want to see, can this person communicate in writing? Because there will be times when many people will be forced to do that. Training, a planned effort to enable employees to learn job-related knowledge, skills, and behavior. So training is ongoing in many fields of human endeavor. You never get to the point you say, I arrived. And no. If you're working for an organization and they're trying to stay relevant and competitive or ahead, one of the things they're going to do is have good training. Development, acquisition of knowledge, skills, and behaviors that improve an employee's ability to meet the challenges. So now I'm going to develop these people so that they can actually do their jobs in the manner in which we want them done. And you have individual development, professional development, group development, but your bottom line is this: it's going to be the same thing. Process management, process of ensuring employees' activities and outputs match the organization's goals. So you want to make sure that what people are doing is consistent with, what we input is basically what we get in the output is consistent with what we input. It's very consistent. We don't have any things that's disagreeing or conflicting. HR may be responsible for developing or maintaining questionnaires and other devices for measuring performance. So a lot of times when you get these questionnaires and stuff, they do go back to HR. And they're looking for, one of the best ways to find out what people are doing and what they think about it, what's happening at ground level, is to ask them. And you got to create an environment where people feel comfortable to say, you know what, I can tell you the truth. When I seen questionnaires and surveys that were not effective, it was because people were not honest on them, and they weren't honest for various reasons. Don't trust management, or they work for a bad organization, they got bad culture. Focus on short-term or long-term goals. This is something too. Know the difference between your short-term and long-term goals. You don't have just goals. Focus on the things that you need to happen in the short term. To give you an example, in order for us to be successful long-term, we need these things to happen short-term. So you have to understand what they are. Typically completed by the employees and supervisors. So when you see these types of surveys and you look at that stuff, that's typically done by focusing on short-term and long-term. This is typically done by employees, supervisor, because they're the ones who managers are supposed to have the vision and the strategy, and so they know where they want to go, not the employees. Planning and administering pay and benefits. So determine salary, wages, bonuses, commissions, and other performance-related pay. Determine which benefits to offer and how much of the cost is shared by employees. Needs system for tracking employees' earnings and benefits. Employees need information about benefit plans. Requires extensive record-keeping reporting. This is very extensive, and this is why compensation people and compensation leaders and managers are some of the highest paid people in HR, because this is extremely subject matter specific, and requires a high level of expertise. And for the people who do this, they get in and they do this and they manage this stuff for most of them get in this career field and they stay there forever and they never switch. So responsibilities of human resource departments: maintaining positive employee relations. So preparing and distributing employee handbooks and accompanying publications, responding to communications from employees, negotiating union contracts, and maintaining communication with union representatives. So a positive employee relations it entails quite a bit. So one thing is the handbooks you put in out there. Are they up to date? Do they have relevant information, and are they useful that people can actually go to it and refer to it when they have questions about stuff? Responding to employee communication. I can't think of anything worse when somebody has a need, an employee, and they respond to communication from someone and they don't get in to hear anything back. Negotiate union contracts and maintaining relationship with the union. So when you have organizations that have unions, one of the things I can tell you is this: those can't be adversarial. You have to have people who are willing to work together for the common good to get things done. And so you have to have working relationships with union reps. Establish and administering personnel policies: hiring, discipline, promotions, and benefits. So when you look at these different policies, you got to have policies in place on how to hire people, what processes do you discipline, what's the process to go through to discipline people, all the way up to termination. Promotions, how are you going to be fair and equitable in your promotions? And the benefits, having benefits that are competitive, and particularly as people get older and they start starting families, benefits is something that's very important. And that can be the difference between someone staying at your organization and leaving. Because give you an example, why would somebody take a $3,000 pay cut to leave one company to go to another? Well, what you may find is it wasn't always just about the salary. It was also about the benefits. The other company has extremely good benefits, and this person has a family member who has a lot of health problems. So if taking a $3,000 pay cut is nothing if it's going to save him $15,000 in medical bills. HR, personnel communicate through a variety of channels. Presentations at meetings, posting documents online, email, social media. So HR has always got these different ways to reach out and communicate, but also they want to have multiple ways that you can contact them too. Managing and using human resource data, handling records while protecting privacy. So you got to understand when you need HR, you have to handle people's sensitive information and personal identifiers and stuff. You have to know how to handle these things, and you have to store them and keep them in compliance with law and policy. Workforce analytics. Use quantitative tools and scientific methods to analyze data from human resource databases and other sources to make evidence-based decisions and support the business goals. So when you're talking about making these kind of decisions, you want to give you an example. Two and two is always going to be 4. And that's not a debate. It's not 3 and it's not 5. So when you're making decisions and you got hard data to back up what you say and what you can prove, this is ultimately how you get people come up with compelling arguments to make some changes or to implement something. Ensuring compliance with labor laws. So it includes equal employment opportunity, employee safety and health, employee pay and benefits, privacy, job security. Government requirements include filing reports and displaying posters, avoiding unlawful behavior. Lawsuits continue to influence human resource management practice concerning job security. Employee at will, age discrimination. So when you're looking at this, you have all these different types of things that you must know about. You have a department which knows about these things. Like I said, when it comes, particularly when you're talking about adverse type things, when you talk about dealing with disciplinary type stuff or termination or dealing with someone who felt like they've been wronged in some capacity, you got to have practice, you got to have policies, and you got to have procedures in place. This can't be, because these things are subject to be settled to end up in particular and potential litigation. Human resource planning, identifying the numbers and types of employees the organization requires to meet their objectives. So when you look at the human resource planning, they're looking at numbers and you're talking about a big organization where everybody in there has different jobs and stuff. So you got to look at that to figure out how many of these types of positions you need in various places, in doing what? Talent management, systematically planned effort to attract, retain, develop, and motivate highly skilled employees in management. Talent management is extremely good. And here's why. Not only do you want to hire the best, but you want to keep them. And if you're trying to keep them, that's your talent management. It's going to have a lot to do with that. I'll give you an example. I could be a highly recruited person and come to an organization, and when I get there, I find out that basically I'm bored to death, and I'm not challenged, and I feel like I'm wasting my time. I'm probably at risk from leaving an organization because of that. Evidence-based HR, collecting and using data to show human resource practices that have positive influence on the company's bottom line or key stakeholders. So evidence-based is, like I said, when you are making pitches or trying to make compelling arguments, you want to have evidence-based stuff. You want to be able to go in and say, here's what I can, based upon these factors that I've got extracted through analytics from my database, this is what I expect we can do in this capacity. And it's not you going up and talking about, well, this is what I think and this is what I feel. Managing change by applying knowledge of human behavior along with the performance management tools to help the organization manage change constructively. Sustainability, ability to profit without depleting resources, including employees, natural resources, and support of surrounding community. Stakeholders, parties with an interest in the company's success, typically include shareholders, community, customers. So supporting the organization strategy, you see how the ability to maintain the profit, all the people that's involved in sustainability, and then you look at stakeholders, how they come into play, and it's a lot. It is a lot to juggle with all these different type of people in these various capacities. But that's why you have a department usually dedicated to doing it. Blank is the HR function that is primarily concerned with ensuring employees are capable of doing their current jobs, while blank is the HR function that ensures employees are satisfied with their rewards. So, what you think the answer to that would be? The answer would be B, training, pay, and benefits. So the Society of Human Resource Management, SHRM is what it's commonly referred to. HR Comps defines knowledge and skills associated with success in HR management. 4 clusters of competencies. So you have technical, interpersonal, business, and leadership. And technical is when you have people who are like your tech people, your IT folks, whatever else. Interpersonal, relationship management, communications, and global mindset. How are you dealing with the people side of things? Business, consultation, analytical aptitude, and business acumen. Having a good business acumen to try a good mindset to say, where do we want to take this organization? How do we want to lead and how do we want to get there? Leadership, and navigation, diversity, equity, inclusion, ethical practice. Being able to bring in different types of skill sets and people to do various things and lead them all successfully. That is successful leadership. And I will tell you this, I'm going to refer to it as transformational leadership. And these are the type of leaders that can do really well in this position. Competencies. So when we look at the competencies, we see HR expertise, relationship management, communications, global mindset, leadership, navigation, ethical practice, diversity, equity, inclusion, consultation, analytical aptitude, business acumen. So competency for HR. This is what SHRM has said. You need to have competent. If you have an HR, successful HR, this is how it is competent in all these different areas. Supervisors. At a startup, the company's founders are the first supervisors. Supervisors have many HR functions. Most consider the ways that decisions and policies will affect their employees. So you think about supervisors a lot of times. Think of like first line supervisors, people who are there with their employees, used on a daily basis, or have a lot of interaction with them. Supervisors' involvement in common areas and stuff. So we look, help define jobs. That's first thing. Forecast HR needs. So one of the things supervising HR knows, to satisfy the needs that HR has. Provide training. You see the people, you're involved with them, you know who needs training what. Interview and select candidates. When you have somebody who's involved in that process, they know the type of people they need. Not just the skill sets and stuff, but also for the best fits. Appraise performance. So this is something right here where I said that these things need to be done and need to be done accurately and timely and factually. Because one of the things is if you try to help people improve, then it needs to be in writing to help somebody improve. And if somebody's doing an outstanding job, it needs to be in writing to reinforce their positive job performance. Recommend pay increases and promotions. Supervisors can do that because they know what everybody's making and they know what everybody's performing at, and they can make recommendations based upon that. Communicate policies. Communicate about what the policies are to people so that they're not getting confused about things. Particularly when there's new policies coming on. You have new people coming on or you have new policies being implemented. Motivate with support from pay, benefits, and rewards. I call it positive reinforcement. Motivate folks, with some people are going to be motivated by the pay, some by the benefits, some by the rewards to add a pat on the back. Good supervisors will know what someone's motivation is or what their needs may be. Ethics, fundamental principles of right or wrong. Treatment of employees is a top concern, such as the treatment of women in the workplace. Show me a place that lacks ethics or is low on ethics or doesn't value ethics, and I can show you usually a place that has high turnover because people don't feel like they're being treated right, or they may not be. And also addressing the treatment of all people, not just females, but all people. I'll give you an example: different ethnic groups or different cultures. Ethical behavior. Behavior that is consistent with those principles. Many ethical issues in the workplace involve HR. So when you have these ethical issues or ethical dilemmas, they're going directly to HR, and that's where they go first. Now, whether they stay there or get resolved there or end up going into some type of other adverse process like litigation or something. Employee rights, free consent. You got to make sure employees have free consent, no matter what it may be. Free consent, and people feel free to speak. Privacy. You got to respect people's privacy, and a lot of that's going to be dealing with HR, with their records. If somebody's been getting disciplined or some things are going on with somebody with their illness in the family, all types of things. Freedom of conscience. So people need to have the freedom of conscience and stuff. Bottom line is follow your conscience and be able to execute on that. And people only do that when they feel free. They feel like they're in an environment that allows that. Freedom of speech. They will only speak their mind when they think it's comfortable, when they're comfortable doing it. If they don't trust management, they don't like the culture of the organization, they won't do it. What they will do is they either won't say anything or they'll tell you what you think you want to hear. And due process. Make sure everybody has due process, particularly when you're dealing with adverse situations. And this way, it's a fair process. So if you do that, then there's a high probability if you have to make a recommendation eventually to terminate somebody, you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's and you treated them fairly. If you have not done so, this is where you may find yourself getting sued by someone. Standards for ethical behavior. Ethical companies act according to 4 principles. Emphasize mutual benefits and relationships with customers, vendors, and clients. Employees assume responsibility for the actions of the company, have a sense of purpose or vision that employees value and use in their daily life, emphasize fairness. So when organizations treat people fair, they will be fair with the organizations, and they will do things, and they will try to support the organization. Basically, if people feel like the organization has their back, then they will have the back of the organization, plain and simple. Ethical practice, greatest good for the greatest number. Respect for basic human rights, fair and equitable, ethical alternative. So when you look at these things right here, you still is talking about doing things consistent with company policies and practices, but being fair with people. And remember, treating people as it's your most valuable asset. When you do these things, that's when these 3 arrows right here will happen in the organization, and you can see it. Building a career. Salaries vary depending on industry and education and experience. And so some positions are generalist, some are specialized. Most positions require a college degree. Increase career opportunities through training and advance. So when you talk about building a career, you take a look at the salaries and stuff. You look at the career, and you look at the industry and type in education experience, and you factor that into. You bring people who are generalists. You have HR generalists, and you have HR people who are HR specialists, but you also have that also outside of HR. Most positions require a college degree to get into HR. Rarely do you see somebody that doesn't have one, and it may not be a degree to HR, but there's some type of degree. Increase career opportunities through training and development. So people do have career ladders, paths of success in HR, all the way from entry level all the way to chief HR to the chief of HR. Median salaries for HR. So when you look and see, remember I said earlier, the highest compensated people will usually be compensations and benefits manager, and some of those people, because of the complexity of which the things that they have to deal with. Human resource manager there, training development manager, labor relations specialist, instructional designer or technologist, human resource specialist, training development specialist, human resource assistant. And based on what I'm saying right here, the salaries for what I'm seeing with some of this right here are actually kind of low. They would actually be higher than this. That concludes this chapter.